Well, so salam alaikum and good evening. Thank you all for joining today. I know Friday evenings are a bit crazy to catch up, but thank you for taking time out. A warm welcome to the first ever Retail Remix edition and the Fireside Chat. So what we have for you tonight is a very interesting evergreen topic, but ever evolving, which is, what's the confluence of online and offline retail? And how do you ensure that you build the right consumer journeys across all touch points? And to speak about it, we have a very delightful panel. I've had the privilege of talking to each one of them before and knowing them in person. I'm sure you will all derive a lot of insights out of the conversations today. Just when we were getting, so what we'll do is we have about 35 minutes or 40 minutes to do this. We'll have a quick round of introductions, then we'll deep dive into the subject. And at the end, we'd love to get some questions from the audiences, so it'll be great. To begin with introductions, I asked Yazdan, why am I being made the Toastmaster? And he said, because you're the least known person on the panel. So I take the privilege of introducing myself first. I'm Dharmendra. I head e-commerce at Lal's Group. Been with the group for about 3 years, and before this, about 25 years doing retail, large format retail and e-commerce. That's largely about me. And now to the most popular person on the panel, Harsh.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear? Hi. I think it's thanks for the team to put this together. I think it's good to meet people from the same stream, get to know each other, understand each other's challenges. A bit about myself, I'm Vishal. I've been in the region for around 12 years in various streams of working with Landmark Group, the largest, then Rivoli, and now working with Albu Marine. I head the e-commerce business for Albu Marine. So we are a 35-year-old company, managing mostly apparels in the surfwear and beachwear category. Recently, or a year or two ago, we acquired the rights for Reebok. So that's the biggest game changer for the group as such. So I manage the Reebok website for UAE. We are currently present from a retail perspective in UAE. Our challenge is that we are moving into newer regions. So how we can get everything aligned and how we can put everything together. So that's the place where we are at, and looking forward to the conversation with all the people over here.
Good evening. I'm Kartik. Been in the region now for almost 17 years. Been working with retailers for almost 2 decades. Was with Shah Retail as a CEO. Currently, I work with Modern Electronics Sony as a Chief Digital Officer. We responsible for managing Sony, PlayStation, and consumer audio video for Saudi and a few other geographies. And it's a pleasure to see all of you. Thank you. Some known face, some faces meeting for the first time. So looking forward.
Thank you, Kartik. I mentioned earlier, my name is Harsh. I'm the founders of Fynd. We're a 12-year-old retail technology company. Work with close to about 400 brands in India and a few here in the region. Do about $7 to $8 billion of GME that goes through our platforms across both offline and online. About 5 years ago, the company got a majority stake by Reliance Retail. So we manage all of Reliance Retail's backend, which is across all sorts of sizes, formats, categories, brands, everywhere. And now looking to expand, have started working in the region for the past year and looking to expand to other geographies soon. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Mahaveer. Compared to them, like I have a least experience, I could say. I have almost a decade of experience. I started as a developer, and almost a year after, I thought, okay, why can't we start a company? And I run Codilar for almost 9 years now. And we are very fortunate to work with the leading groups in Middle East like Al Shaya, Lal's Group, Albu Marine. And our core forte is working on e-commerce platforms in this region. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, guys. Amazing. Mahaveer, you want to swap seats? It's easier.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to manage like this. So we go in, the questions go like this.
You're dangerous for my phone.
For your phone also. So I think great introduction, guys. Thank you very much. Um, so quickly diving into what we want to talk about, right? So one of the challenges that most people face in the region, we face common challenges. However, the solutions that come up are very unique to each organization. I think Vishal brought this up saying, as an ecosystem, we're all in the same boat. We all have similar situations as far as customers are concerned, and how are we building those businesses. So Kartik, out of your experience, you've been deeply involved in building some of the key brands in the region. How do you think has the customer experience journey evolved over the last couple of years, and between digital and retail? And what's your take on where we are today, and what's the way forward?
Thank you. I've been fortunate to be a part of two large success stories. One is Adventure HQ, a typical adventure-driven business, Forever 21 Cotton On, and then recently the Sony PlayStation business. So I think we are all used to the idea, and people of my generation, especially who've been in the retail much before 2004-5, have all been used to the idea of a brick and mortar business operating and then migrating into and seeing a new world of e-commerce, which today has completely changed. It's the consumer doesn't see them as two different interfaces. Consumer still connects with us being one interface. And I can give you a prime example of business like Adventure HQ, which is driven by what we call as experiential retailing, a convergence of product, retail, services, engagement, community, all of it put together. If somebody were to buy a bike, for example, he might want to browse all the bikes on the platform, come with a decision of what bike he wants to buy, come to the store, try all of them, get them delivered to his doorstep, customize as per his expectations, and then expect that the entire bike servicing journey is repeated over a 3-month period. But when you go into a little more intent-driven purchases, similar something into a camping business or something into a kayaking business, you would realize the confluence of both the elements, which is the online element and the offline element, coming much closer. When you build journeys similar to what an Airbnb does, which is an intent-driven, elimination-driven journey, you realize, it's contrary to a popular belief that when you throw open a store with a large collection like a Carrefour, or you throw open a store with a large collection like a Noon, consumers find it convenient. While it's the other way around. Consumers do not like to be thrown open to a large store. They like to be taken through the elimination journey. And that's where the entire process of bringing online and offline together works. If I were to take you through another example of, let's say, buying a Bravia 95-inch television or buying a Bravia 104-inch television or a home theater system, something similar to what Sharaf DG does here, or something similar to what we do in the South, in the region, Saudi, is you take consumer through an entire journey or an experience of a home theater. When Sony says that we bring home cinema to your door, we bring cinema to your doorstep, it actually is bringing cinema to your doorstep. You put into a 900 or 1,000 square feet room with 7 speakers, 4 to 5 sofas, and a dim light atmosphere that's similar to what your den in the house is. And then you watch a TV on a movie on a 94-inch a Dolby Atmos surround environment, you realize you're getting closer to it, and then the purchase becomes that much more easier. When you load it onto something like a PlayStation, PlayStation is probably similar to what an Apple does in the telephone industry or in the handphone industry. With 94% market share, the other two players are more or less decimated. But even for somebody like a PlayStation, it's a community-driven gaming. While all of us believe gaming is a hobby, gaming is a couple of hours a week activity for hardcore gamers who indulge in PlayStation. For them, it's around 28 to 34 hours of gaming every week. Now, that gaming thrives on one of the most important element of community. Community is where the entire dark world or under the label engagement of cheats, cheat codes, gaming plays, gaming tokenization, gaming cards, etc. works. And that community keeps talking to itself, which is where businesses like PlayStation thrive purely on community. So whether it is experiential, whether it is intent driven, whether it is community, all of it works on consumer being a cardinal and two interfaces being the choices that he has, whether it's research online, purchase offline, or research offline, purchase online, is a choice that you leave with the consumer. You don't get into a decision making for him that I'll let you start the journey here. And that's what at least I have seen in my 4 brands that I've cultivated over the last few years. But there are many other success stories.
Wow, amazing. I think that's very, very interesting, and talking about, So from a business perspective, how do you and probably question to you, Vishal, taking over from where Kartik is leaving it is, how do you stay agile and how do you adapt to all the changes that are happening in consumer behavior? How do you keep the business agile and how do you react to situations like these?
Continuing from what Kartik mentioned, it's always about the customer, right? We need to really understand what the customer is for. Many times what happens is businesses take themselves really seriously and try to define the path in which the customer needs to go. But when you go into the data and do more and more research, you kind of understand that the customer is the one actually driving the desired path. And that's very important for you to, keep that in mind and uh, work around your business technologies to enable the customer make the right decision or a right path. And coming back to the point of how to be agile, yes, it's a ever-changing environment over here. Many things, like all of professionals over here, it's very important for us also to be updated from the latest technologies. And again, these are technologies also driven from what is required by a customer, more so than what we are providing. It is a pain point that we identify from research, from consumer group interviews, focus groups, etc., and then try to address it. And that's how we bring in the agility together, and then that's how we drive the technology also. And I think from one important thing in the manner of gestures also be, not take yourself too seriously and, keep updating yourself from the, there's a lot of data out there, there's a lot of literature out there that, keep yourself updated on that. One of the most important things that design-led development of technology, which is very important. Many people do not know about it, and in which it all talks about how you keep the customer in the center of it and then work your technology. You do the testing of the product with the customer, understand what the feedbacks are there from the customer, and then again rework on it. That's how you get forward. And so that's the way basically we have to be agile. I mean, keep it simple, understand the customer and take it from there. That's it.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I think, and while you're saying this, I'm just echoing what Steve was saying earlier is, there are a lot of misconceptions around, what's the right way to go, what are right technologies. Harsh, you have a point of view on this, on, what are common misconceptions of blending online, offline, and how should you go about it?
So what we see as the first choice that someone has to make is, do I take or do I work with, so first is whether I build or buy. And the first decision is, do I have the ability both in terms of expertise as well as capital to invest in creating my system ground up. The second, the buy decision also is broken into two parts. One is either a contract build or an existing platform buy over the counter, right? So I think those three is the first thing that you've got to internalize and understand. No matter what you do, keep in mind that it is going to be a 2 to 3 year investment that has to be taken care of, right? So irrespective of what you choose, be prepared to put that investment of time, energy, effort, and capital over a 3 year period. When you take any of those ones, you then start thinking about, oh, should I take a partner or platform which is everything under one roof? Or are there point solutions which are specialized in something that you do? So there is no right answer to it. When you're starting off, you want to reduce the number of moving pieces so that you can go live faster. You want to reduce the number of places that you have to do integrations in order to manage any drop-offs or leakages that happen there. So it's always best to start off with something which is under one roof. Right? Ensure that the organization, both at the HO as well as at the stores or warehouses and the customers, all the moving pieces are well understood. Once you start identifying pieces of the journey where you need to start improving your metrics on, is when you start focusing on the point solutions then. Right? So I think these are decisions that you take over a 3-5 year period, and each decision needs at least, I think, 2 years or 3 years to see it through, rather than trying saying, now that I've taken this, I'm going to be able to do this, everything, or, these guys said that they do this, I'm going to take everything from them. Right? So I think the understanding of when to focus on what and which is the right point solution or a platform to go after, at what time do you build, what capabilities do you build internally as well. I think those are some things that one has to think through as they make this decision.
Right. I think, yeah, there's lots to think on that line, right? So, and I'm sure everybody in the audience is going through this phase, and everyone has different solutions in mind. Probably it will be good for everyone to catch up one-on-one with some of you and just figure out what use cases can be solved. I think, so Harsh touched upon this, Mahaveer, and my next question is to you about, when you're building these platforms, what are the considerations that a brand should have in terms of what are the platforms they should use? You've built a lot of those here in the region. You've helped a lot of brands here. In your experience, what really works? What are the considerations a brand must take while identifying which platforms work for them?
Cool. I get these questions very often. So mostly even from the audience side, like many of you might have struggled with this, like which platform should we go with, or because any platform you go, at least you would like to stick for next 3 to 5 years, because replatforming all these things takes nightmare, right? So finding the best platform or a more suitable platform is the very struggle to start with. So we'll understand easily once you have understood the pain points of the current platform. But first, when you have to find the right platform, again, I recently read something that football is not a game of building the strong, it's a point of eliminating the weak. So that is the logic that we should use for choosing the right platform. First, I see, even if you go to ChatGPT, it gives 10 options, right? But most of the time, in real time, that doesn't help. And one platform doesn't work for most of the scales. So first we have to see what is the business scale that we look into. Either we are in a startup mode or in a growth mode or scale mode or innovation mode. So accordingly, we should eliminate the platforms. So then, as Kartik said, right, most of the currents, even now, they are into retail and coming back to the starting the e-commerce. So in that scenario, most of the modules or most of the functionalities or features are already pre-built. For one of my client, registration, promotion, invoice, everything is they're using multiple other systems. So they need e-commerce only for the cataloging and few other major part of it. So we have to understand the platform. You should go for the monolith or you should go for the composable. And we should also see the platform which gives more flexible to us. When I say flexible, like when you're a small company, like your operation team ready to take whatever the technical team says. But when business grows, operation team have their own tuning or own way of optimizing. So your tech team has to be like support the operations team. So we have to see a platform which provides all these things. And so I don't want to pick a platform name. This could be the better or that could be the best. But we should consider these factors before choosing the platform. Thank you.
Very nicely put, Mahaveer. Thank you. So I think one of the challenges of using multiple technologies and building these journeys is customer experience is different on different channels. And so probably Kartik, next question to you. Across channels, how do you kind of make sure that the experience remains common and constant?
So 2012 is when I set up my first e-commerce startup back in with a venture-funded business. And at that time, e-commerce was one of the fastest growing industries and everybody wanted to be in the business. Everybody who was from the tech background wanted to start and most of them failed. I come from that school of business, which is venture-funded school and has grown businesses. And I continue to believe technology is democratized as an enabler. It's not the machine, it's the man behind the machine that drives. E-commerce businesses historically have succeeded only where product, retail, and customer experiences have been placed at the forefront and not technology, because it takes $100,000 to $150,000 in 3 months to ape that technology and get it out. A couple of months ago, everybody was talking about AI-powered chatbots. Today, AI-powered chatbots are delivering a return on investment of less than 6% in most of the businesses, with only airlines being the most successful use case. So where does that go? All the investments that people have made doesn't fructify. And hence, to have a seamlessness of experience of what you asked and what you're looking at is to understand first, who the shopper is, why is he coming to your platform, how differentiated you are, and how are you trying to see and build the bridge between your offline and the online. Where does the offline pick up the story? Where does the online from the offline pick up the baton? What part of the consumer journey is online and offline? I'll give you a simple example of, let's say, if I were to go and buy a bike, I would go around and look for bikes on the platform, and I would have all the way from a Reed, which is a 1200 dirham bike, to a BMC Team Trial or BMC Alpine or BMC TT1 road machine at 45,000 dirhams. Now it depends on what am I looking for. My first intent is to identify, am I an amateur, a pro, or a leisure buyer? Then comes the solution selling part of it. Now, can I do the solution selling online? If I can do the solution selling online by having an intent driven journey similar to what an Airbnb does, fabulous. Otherwise, I need to have a concierge which books an appointment offline and get the bike to the customer's doorstep, get 3 to 4 bikes of different sizes, get the customization done, and then sell the entire kit to the customer, which is a bike plus a compression shot, a pump, a helmet, footwear, accessories, riding support, and the nutrition that goes around it. Now, this to a lot of people seems like a half an hour job, but to get a 35,000 dirham sale to a customer is a 7 to 8 day process where you need to visit him 3 to 4 different times. Now, that ecosystem can be built seamlessly if you do not consider these two as businesses, but you consider the cardinal as the customer, and you build entire environment, whether it is support, whether it is sales, whether it is last mile, whether it is your catalog, and whether it's your UX across all of these as one common element. And each element is connected to the customer journey, and it is able to map the customer journey through some cardinal. A lot of people try and tell me that I have Adobe's Experience Cloud, I'm able to do a seamless job. Somebody tells me I have Salesforce Martech tool, I've done a fantastic job. Ultimately, all that you require is a customer cardinal, whether you use Zoho, whether you use WebEngage, whether you use MoEngage, or you use anybody. If you are able to track Kartik Bhatt visited me here, Kartik Bhatt visited me there, Kartik Bhatt visited me here, and sum total of the 9 hours that Kartik has spent into my ecosystem has resulted in 3 abandons and 25,000 of sales, you've done a good job. If you're not able to do that, all the technology, all the dollars you spent is of no use.
Absolutely, brilliantly, very, very well put. I think great insight there, Karthik. And like you said, so one of the other things is, and probably slightly different take on what you just said. So while we look at customer first, yes, but I think from a business perspective, inventory becomes like really important. And from an inventory availability, which is your next P in your metrics, how do you, so for example, could you give us an example of Album? What have you done in terms of managing inventory across online, offline, and customer experience around it?
So so the e-commerce journey or the life cycle for Album has been very young. So I think Album as a group, we went on e-commerce in 2020. It's been around 4 years now, and the last 2.5 years we have seen accelerated growth in terms of what we are doing, the technology stack that we are enabling customers to purchase with us. One of the challenges that we have seen is, and because we are a group of different businesses or different brands that we own, like we have Sifoli, Tommy Bahama, Reebok, etc., etc. And each businesses have their own P&L, each business have their own logistics team, warehousing and stores and etc., etc. So it's very challenging then it becomes to get all the inventory placed rightly for the customers. One of the biggest challenge that I see is as an e-commerce owner, I need to ensure the customer is having the right products displayed to them, what they're looking at the right price, etc., etc. Promo items, best sellers, newness, all of the shebang of products that we need to have. What happens is because we are at that stage that we are looking into, integrating all the inventory mapping to a single point so that, like Karthik mentioned, customer becomes the focus and customer gets to choose where they want to shop it from and where they get it delivered to. So that's the journey that we're embarking on, wherein I don't necessarily hold on to the entire stock for my website. I do not become central area for the stock hold. I disperse the stock to the stores and warehouses and all the touch points. So then it decides on the customer customer sees the product, whether he goes to the store or customer goes to the website, they see the entire catalog that's available to them. And then they kind of get the experience of, the unified experience of the brand. Because right now what happens is, um, you go to a particular store in maybe Mall of the Emirates, you might see a range. He liked it, he liked the fabric, touch and feel, comes back home and wants to shop it on the website. It might not be there because that would be in a one size t-shirt which is available in that store. It's a broken experience for the customer and that creates a lot of friction. Now the customer has to go back to the mall, invest his time and purchase it. So that is something that we need to kind of reduce into and give the customer the option to. But even in fact, if the customer walks into the same store and he want to look into another color option or variant, it's available to him and then he can choose whether he wants to pick it from a location or get it delivered. So that's the experience that we need to kind of build. And that enables so that comes back to the same point of, again, I think from whatever we all have been talking, customer is the focus. Customer gets to choose where and when and how he transacts with us and how the experience is. How you unify all of them is the brand. It basically builds the brand equity and brand trust for him to have the same experience across. That's the way that we want to take it forward.
Right. Funnily, when you were talking about it, I thought you were talking about Lal's group. So I'm assuming everyone has the same problems, right? So it shows.
That's the thing that one of the, like when I joined Album also, one of the biggest challenges is that there's multiple tech stack. There is something for warehousing, there is something for the ERP, there is something for the POS machine, and then the customer's journey is broken. Like what Kartik said, it's a dream that I have one day. I get to know the customers or spend 5 hours here, 3 hours there, 2 hours here. Now I'm looking at a limited space of how much he's invested on a digital platform. His digital footprint I have visibility. But whether he's going to the store and purchasing, I don't have. And that's a broken experience for the customer and for us also. Because we're not able to deliver to the promise that we want to, So that's a journey. And I'm sure that's the journey that everybody has to take. It is kind of unifying all the tech. And it's very difficult in today's day and age because every firm has their different life stages and where they are at the maturity. Like you said, some are startups, some are way matured, some are getting there. So identify that. What is the long plan? Whether it's a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, and where do you want to be there, and work towards it. And it's not a shortcut. It is a long-term plan.
Sure, and I think so. Harsh, to you then, continuing from this theme, you've done a lot of work extensively in India and Saudi, and you've spent some time in the UAE. For this audience particularly, what do you think would be guardrails that they should kind of, evaluate while integrating, and what are some of the common challenges you faced during implementation of these multiple systems trying to talk to each other?
I think it comes from the base concept that organization structures and hence the tactical decision-making structures are actually made for ease of balance sheet and cash flow reporting, and not from the perspective of the operating model to your customer, right? And from top to bottom, it ends up being those silos there. I think breaking that barrier, and well, I understand that there's some advantages to that, but breaking that barrier, at least at some levels, to be able to get an executive or key management to look at a overall approach as opposed to it being just that particular specialized approach there. I think that I think is the first barrier. Right? So for example, we advocate this a lot, at least in India, is offline retail always has been judged on revenue per square feet. And this is my store, this is that's how much revenue I'm going to make, and revenue per square feet is the metric for that. I think it's a great metric from a store operating perspective, but not from a business of the retail or the brand perspective. We've been advocating retailers to take a revenue per region or a revenue per zip code metric out there, because then you can interplay both your offline and online focus towards where the consumer is. Yes, places where you have a store, your revenue per region will be higher because a store means additional marketing cost, additional operating cost, and that has to be offset by additional revenue there. But the interplay of both, not just both online and offline, but you may have a distribution business going through franchises as well. The interplay of that to look at how population density is probably the right way to sort of look at it, right? So I think that's one example of how we're advocating organizations to start looking at those things differently. On the systems per se, again, because each organization is so-called empowered to make their own decisions, and you don't want to take on the responsibility of either proving or disproving them, it becomes a mishmash of these multiple systems that are there. Now, you may not always be able to fight it because sometimes it's linked to procurement, accounting, taxation. The approach that people have been taking is to then create a middle layer on top of it. So you don't want to always go and touch every different system and say, listen, I will get integrated to this and that. And then each of them will then serve all the channels that are there. But if you're able to then create a middle layer, which then becomes a source of truth, that allows an organization to scale up very easily. Today you may have only Noon and Amazon as sales channels. What if tomorrow you have TikTok shop and you have Instagram shop and you have Facebook marketplace? How do you start doing that better? You can't keep building individual linkages there. So a tactical way of looking at it is just to create this middle layer on top. But the middle layer has to go across all these organization, silos that are there. So you almost have to look at it as a two-layer thing where people who are in charge of P&L and business probably need to be generalists across these silos. And then the execution-oriented people need to be focused more with that particular skill set. And decisions on choice of system, choice of partner, build versus buy need to be taken at that generalist level so that you can look at it more holistically. So these are some of the more core things that they've been advocating for. We don't want to go to retailers and say, change this system, change that system, remove your ERP, make this ERP. I think it's usually a losing conversation there because a lot of pain that has gone into it. So the PTSD to get over that is just very, very high. So you end up, a better approach is to say, okay, here's a mid layer which sits on top of it. And nothing else changes on the back end. Especially when you have to go to the commercials guy and says, hey, listen, your reporting is going to defer. That itself is like a no-go completely. So taking that approach becomes important as the retailer is looking to modernize themselves.
Yeah, I think very well put, Harsh. So I'll slightly change the theme. I think we've spoken a lot about product and systems, but I think one of the other concerns during these transitions is data and data privacy. So maybe Mahaveer, question to you, from a data privacy perspective, how do you ensure that the data that flows between these different systems is protected, is maintained in the right systems and right ways?
Okay. Following the European constant, even Middle East has recently started with their own privacy laws. I think they call it PDPL. So with the PDPL, it's very similar to the GDPR. It is very easy if it is a single system which we use. So what data that you should keep and what is the concern that we should take from the customer. So that is very clear. And recent years, I think from 2023, from last year, many people started adopting this PDPL in the UAE. But where it's go complexity is like when we have a multiple systems. So for example, as you mentioned, the Insta shop or like Facebook or when you have sell product with the multiple marketplaces. So how do we manage the data? So not everybody have the servers here or not everybody follows the laws of the land currently. So it works much better if it's a single domain activities, but still there are some struggles and still the laws are not completely defined. For example, the third party company, US company or Indian company, when they come where the data should stay and what sort of data they should hold. And even GA4 has come recently. What is the level of first party cookies they should store? What is the level of third party cookies they should store? So there are little confusions are going on here, but it is a good thing that they have started PDPL, and I think every quarter they are improving PDPL in UAE. I think probably here also, they will be having much better laws to protect the customers' data privacy.
Got it. And so I think the final P in the metrics are people. So from a frontline perspective, and probably question to you, Kartik, on how do you empower frontline staff to kind of deliver these digital experiences across both channels?
Interesting. So let's look at the stores. If you look at the physical stores, we end up hiring a lot of sales associates. And I would keep going back to the two businesses that I'm very proud of. One is the PlayStation and the other is Adventure HQ. And when you look at people at both the businesses, you would notice a distinct thing. We are not in the business of selling, we are in the business of helping you buy. When you meet or come across, and that's what we call as versatile retailing, whether you walk into a PlayStation store, which is a Sony World store, or you walk into an Adventure HQ store, more often than not, you will come across a staff member who is intimidatingly knowledgeable, is sharp, crisp, starts by asking you a lot of questions to understand, not to harrow or trouble you, but to gauge what is the right product and what is the right solution that you're going to go out with. It's very important to help buyers overcome the buyer's remorse. For example, I'll go back to my old conventional example. You've gone to buy a camping kit. You plan to go on a camping trip with your family. If you are an amateur camper, all you would know is I need to buy a tent and walk away with that. Now, if you do not have a guy on the other side of the story who is versatile and understands, are you going to a temperate climate? Are you going to a mountain? Are you going to a desert? Are you going to a snow? If you're going to a snow, you would require a sleeping bag, which is thermal, which has minus 20 to minus 25 temperature. You would need a fire. You would need a power bank that can be insulated in a cold temperature. You would need cooking utensils. You would need water. You need a toilet which can be managed. Now this, if you do not know about what you're buying and the other guy is only worried about his incentives, imagine the nightmare you would face when you're out in the desert or out in the mountains. And this is what we call as solution selling. Exactly the same way when you walk into a PlayStation store, let's say you do not have a guy who's intelligent enough to understand that are you a family of two, are you a family of three, are you into the toxic gaming, are you into the light gaming? He would not end up giving you the right accessories. He might let you buy that one controller which comes with a kit and you'll have kids fighting at home and you would have to go back to buy another controller and you would be pissed with the idea that the guy at the store did not teach you or did not tell you. So most important enabling of your staff is not actually to enable them with the dollar discounts, but is to enable them with the right versatility, which is where continuous training needs to go in. You would be surprised that boys at Adventure HQ, when I was working with them, were trained to fold, unfold, open, close a tent all within 3 minutes to make sure that the drill is done repeatedly. And that's how they are evaluated. Can you open a tent? If you cannot open a 6-person tent and fold and unfold and show the customer, you would never teach him how to use his tent right. If you do not know how to fold a sleeping bag right, or if you do not know how to wear a sleeping bag right, you would never be able to teach a customer. And that's where the sale is lost. In a category where and at the same time, you're going to be dealing with a lot of professionals. Let's say you have a triathlon runner who comes to buy a bike and he exactly knows what he wants to. He's going for Ironman 4, Ironman 5. Now, when he comes to buy a bike, he's not going to tell you, I want a bike. He's going to start by telling me, can you fix my gravel from 14 to 17? Can you give me a 57, 58 adjustable with compression shots that would give me a -4, -5 compression? Now, when he starts talking in that manner, imagine if your guy doesn't know how to handle it. He would make an absolute fool of himself. The guy is never going to come back to your shop. He wants to deal with an equally trained, equally versatile and agile store associate. So you don't hire store associates for selling. You hire store associates to help people buy. And that's how you empower differently. And the same thing is on an online conversation. When you're talking to a guy on an online conversation, talking to him about a 95-inch Bravia TV, 9 out of 10 people don't know what a Bravia TV is, what is OLED and what is QLED. People don't know. They've just seen an ad. The guy either on the call or on the chat or in the store needs to tell you that a QLED of a Samsung and an OLED of a Sony, this is the difference. This is how you would be able to gauge when people say 7.2 is far better than 5.1. It's all about how big your house is and where are you going to place your speakers. So this versatility is what is called enabling your staff to handle your customer experience. When you deal with somebody who's versatile enough to get you the right solution, I think you've enabled him right. Then if you don't give him the right to give 5% additional discount, do price offs, the customer's going to be happy. He would be happy to pay $5, $10, $20 more to talk to somebody who's going to make him feel happy at the end of the day. So that's my 2 bits on enabling and getting the right stuff.
Amazing. And how much time do you spend on the floor? Because this knowledge comes from the floor.
One retailer, all I do is go to the stores. I started working as a cashier 2003-4 when I came out of my management school. The first job that I was given was, and this was straight after my MBA from a very fancy B school. So I was humiliated when my supervisor said, all that you need to do is stand behind the cashier. When he cashes in, you need to put the product in the bag and give it to the customer. The next 6 weeks later, for 3 months, all I was supposed to do is to put clothes on a mannequin. So for 9 months, all I did was to put clothes on a mannequin, take them off and put a new collection. So unless you spend significant amount of time on your shop floor, glass office and ivory towers knowledge can help you write a strategy note. It cannot help you drive and run a business.
Wow, very inspiring. Very, very inspiring. And I'm sure you can open and close a tent in 3 minutes. Well, so I think on this experiential part, question to you now, Vishal. The new 2 keywords are web rooming, showrooming. How do you incorporate that in your experience, in your current role? And how do you kind of see the future for that?
See, that's where we want to get into from a web rooming perspective, showcasing the entire range that we have and, giving the customers the entire collection that's available to them. Unfortunately, right now it's a broken experience. You will not be able to see the entire range of the products. It has come. So what happens is, what are the touch points for a customer? Digital, outdoor, radio, etc., etc. You get to know about the product, you get to know the brand, you go there for looking for a certain thing after doing all the research. And then when you're not able to get that product at the location or not be supported by the sales staff in purchasing that, it becomes again a broken experience. So that's the gap that we really need to look into. And, across all touch points, kind of be enabling the customer to be able to see the entire catalog. That's something that we're looking at. One of the things that in my conversations with the team also is that it is enabling the staff also in that sense. When I joined Landmark in 2013, we were just embarking into the e-commerce stream. The biggest challenge at that point of time is that the retail staff feeling that e-commerce is taking off their sales. It was an idea of that, though, these are 2 different competing channels of businesses and they're going to take over. But eventually with loyalty coming in and we getting the data and seeing where the customer is shopping, if they're interacting with us on a digital platform and what are they converting on the store and vice versa. So the ROPO effect and how, so it gave us data to back the hypothesis that people's ATVs goes up or people are spending more time on the web page and looking at the product, understanding the product. It was quite baffling for people to first believe that people buy a 4,000 dirhams bed online, sitting in the comfort of home rather than going to the store, lying down on the mattress, seeing how it is, whether the width is correct, etc., etc. Over a period of time, we got to understand that people do extensive research, both online and offline. First, they want to know what kind of design they want to look into. Then they go to the store, experience it, touch, feel how it is, measure it, look into the room, and then come back and shop in the comforts of the home. So that's something that we need to really, bring it together. And many a times businesses are not able to do it because they were fundamentally retail stores or built for retail. And the concept was that if the customer is coming in, whatever I have, I'll try to sell it to him. But more than that, it's providing them a solution. If you don't have something that you're looking for here, is there something that you can buy it elsewhere? And that's something that we need to really look into.
Great. I think in the interest of time, probably.
Web room.
Web rooming and showrooming. Web rooming and showrooming. So when you research online and go to the store to purchase versus when you go to the store, research what you want and then come back online and buy. Answers? Right. I think the other question, so what I had in the interest of time, just wanted to check if, because both Harsh and Mahaveer are building some of these technology solutions, any suggestions, any questions that you would have, or what is the one thing that you'd want them to kind of do?
I have a lot of them. I deal with a lot of them every day, so I have a lot of them. Who takes the ownership is the most important part. I have 7 technology projects running between Adobe, Salesforce, Microsoft, and the works. Is it the SI or is it the solution partner? At least in the last few years after my anecdotal learnings of disasters, I have moved to the solution partner first approach and I am extremely happy with it. For example, if I have a solution partner, I'm going to let the solution partner put in the best SI that he thinks is relevant for my business so that somebody takes ownership, because I do not want to be caught between an SI and a solution partner trying to teach me how to suck eggs. That's the first one. Second one is, to a lot of technology partners, I always tell them, don't try and sell me what you have. Try and understand what I need to do for the kind of vision that I have. So first understand my business, understand my requirement, and then try and come back to me with a solution. Don't try and tell me this is the bouquet of products that I have. Now make a considered choice. If I knew what to buy and if I could make a considered choice, I would have bought it off the shelf and executed by now. So try and understand what I need. Don't sell me a very vast experience. And at the same time, sell me what I exactly need. Last month, I was on a concluding end of an enterprise migration for one of my divisions from a community to an enterprise migration. I was reasonably clear in my head that I needed only a commerce cloud because the rest of the environment was well placed. One of the global giants in the technology space tried to convince me over 3 sessions of 3 hours to help make me buy their experience cloud. And eventually what I did is I changed my solution partner. Don't try and sell me what you want to. Understand what I need to buy and sell me that solution. And sell me a long-term solution. Don't try and price it in a manner that works well for you. Price it in a manner that my TCO as a total cost of solution works well within my parameters. When it comes to middleware, when it comes to integrators, when it comes to licensing of solutions, the entire ERP, the entire CRM, and the entire last mile connectivity becomes the nodal points for which I need to get it right. So most of the solution providers tell me, I have composability in my solution. My solution costs you only $40,000. But everybody fails to understand that in an accelerated model of business, or an accelerator, or a composable, or even a headless for that matter, the total cost of ownership is going to be 6 to 7 times of what that license cost is going to be. So if I am not that agile enough, I might end up signing up for something that is significantly beyond my 1.5–2% solution costing for my revenue that's going to be. So my humble appeal to a lot of solution providers is spend time with the businesses, understand what stage of the business they are in, and sell what they want to buy.
Do you want to take that question as well?
I completely agree with what Kartik said. It's about understanding what the business wants, where they are at in their life cycle, and what the solution that needs to be provided. You might not need the entire gamut of things that is required, but exactly understand what they need and deliver to that. That's the plain simple answer.
Great. I think that's about the questions I had. We'll open up to the audiences if there are any questions, anything that you'd like to ask.
I'm not sure whom I'm going to direct this question to, but if I can get an answer. There are the 2 questions here. What is the percentage of e-commerce sales against brick and mortar sales for, let's say, any brand or any showroom that you have? And the number 2 question is, what kind of percentage of sales happens of these brands into pure e-commerce retailers vis-a-vis what you do on your e-commerce platforms?
Kartik, you want to take that?
So In the
You know,
electronic space,
because I come from grocery, we know that it's, I mean, our e-commerce sales is around 16, 17% of, you know, what we sell totally. So I just wanted to have a benchmark.
so if I'm in the fashion space, for the businesses that I ran in fashion, it's typically in the 21 to 18 to 23%. If you go of the overall sale. If you go down the electronics route, which is my current business, typically 24 to 27%. As you go up the premium curve, it increases up to around 35-40%. If you go down the value curve, it comes down significantly. The trust element and the indulgence element varies significantly. Does that help in specialized niche retail, let's say like an adventure retail or a sports retail, you would end up realizing it's a repo. So transactions terminate somewhere, transactions originate somewhere. So putting a cardinal on that might be difficult, but 15 to 20%, 20 to 25% of the business, especially in the adventure and sports businesses that I have run, have come in from online space. That's one. What was the second question? If you go in the handphone space, it is significantly larger. If you go into the computing space, in computing, if you are into pure computing laptops, it is higher. But the moment you get into desktop and accessories, it comes down, and solutions and softwares, it skews the numbers. If you are into home appliances would be in the closer to 13, 14, 15%, because you need to do a lot of measurements and sizing, which online still, in certain parts of the GCC, hasn't come into the terms. If you go into the gaming space, it can go up to as much as 27, 30, 35%, depending on what solution you are looking at.
I just want to add on to his point. From an apparel industry perspective also, it's between 15 to 25. And one thing that I've seen is the more the brand is engaging to the customer, the higher the percentage goes from the, it becomes to somewhere around 23 to 25%. So that's the way it is. Lesser the brand is known in the market, people not have much interactions, the percentage comes down also. So that's something that probably of interest you guys.
Second question was, what is the nature of retailers that you were asking, right? So,
Let's say you have a brand like PlayStation. Of your total sales, how much is sold through pure play e-commerce guys like Noon or Amazon?
so it depends on the brand strategy. Let's say if I'm into the fashion business, if I'm somebody like a Forever or a Cotton On, I wouldn't even go into the third-party marketplaces unless I have liquidation that needs to be done. This is the only space where brand.com comes into salience, or if I have a horizontal vertical in the fashion space, I might try and indulge. But if I'm into the electronic space, somebody like an AO.com, which is a pure play home appliances retailer, of the online space, more than 60% would come from that. Brand.com typically doesn't work in the electronic space. It works only in the fashion space or an aggregator space. So yes. Noon, Amazon, Mum's World, First Cry, Namshi, CV, AO.com, Sharaf DG, all of them are horizontally vertical except for Noon and Amazon. The rest of them are horizontally vertical. So they drive a significant value in their own space or in their own category.
I saw another hand there for a question.
Hello, my name is Shashi. So my question is a bit longer. It's based on trend. So Vishal, you mentioned about customer centricity, right? How do you keep consumer at center of all the decision making? And an important point also you mentioned is when and how a customer gets to choose a product. Along with, I think, Harsh, you said the planning has to be 2-3 years down the line, and all the capability building you need to start planning as of now. So my question is on this trend that commerce has always existed, right, over centuries. And then in last 2-3 decades, we have seen e-commerce booming. But my question is targeted on quick commerce. The way, the drastic consumer behavior change that we have seen in last, over let's say 2-3 years, people started with, let's say, grocery. They wanted grocery in, let's say, 1 hour. Now they want it in 10 minutes. Now people are wanting iPhone in 15 minutes. 15 minutes, yeah. How does retail, e-commerce, plan for it? I mean, what's going to be the consumer behavior 2 years down, 3 years down the line? How are you preparing for it as e-commerce? And also, just another thought on, what Kartik also said that, for example, the tent example, that you are showing someone how to fold the tent or close the tent. And we spoke about delivering the last mile experiences that customer right, at store. Now if things starts to change and this touch point becomes customer doorstep, how all this planning and how is e-commerce preparing for that?
So the way that I have looked at it is most of these quick delivery options are provided by the aggregators in sense of they are looking at the price and the quickness of the product to be delivered. From a brand perspective, it is mostly like it. Most of the brands are going from a experiential perspective, giving the brand, keeping the brand equity in mind, giving the right experience to customers. Having said that, it has become a norm in the same day delivery. Still, some brands are not able to do it. 2-hour delivery, not going to the 15, because then what happens is you need to have multiple touch points of delivery solutions or warehousing solutions where you have to do quick delivery to the customers. So that is something that at least from my brand's perspective, we are not looking into the next 3 to 4 years. But that's something that what we are looking into is reducing the delivery time period at the current scenario, and also leaving it to the customer where they want to, from where they want to pick it up and how they wanted to get it delivered. So that's the way that we are addressing the scenario.
So I have an interesting trend that I thought I should let you know, and this is something that is in the pilot stage. I am involved in a couple of experiments on the generative AI space, where a large banking partner based out of the UK is piloting, and your question is right. The industry moves continuously towards convenience. In the beginning, it was about, can I make the online journey faster than the consumer going to the store and coming back? That was the pretext with which all of us young retailers, when we were young, started. Today, it's about adding a layer of convenience. A banking partner in the UK is working with Apple, and I support them on data part, to see how can Siri talk to bank's chatbot to finish banking transactions. That's the level of convenience that from one end somebody is talking. At the other end, Carrefour and Google for last 3 years have been involved in the experiment in Germany and in France primarily, to try and see, can your refrigerator order your milk, can your refrigerator order your eggs, and can your refrigerator order your breads? Can it be linked to Google? Can it be linked to a payment gateway? Can it be linked to a shipping partner at 8 a.m. in the morning, 12 p.m. in the afternoon, and 9 p.m. in the evening? Now, what these trends tell you is the direction in which industry is moving. Industry is going to be continuously moving towards convenience. Today, I have customers who want a PlayStation delivered in 2 hours. They've got an idea that I want to play now, so they want a PlayStation. If they want to play FIFA, they will ask for a FIFA game to be delivered in 2 hours. The wants are never ending, but also it's important to check viability. When I deliver a PlayStation game in 2 hours, I'm burning 60 dirhams on that. Until and unless that customer is a AAA or his lifetime values, or he's already a profitable customer for me, to fulfill these fads, I'll keep burning dollars. Someday, it's going to be unviable. The day it gets unviable, either businesses will fold or businesses will start charging for them, whichever is works viable.
Yeah, and I think a quick update for everyone. Today we saw a lot of sales of gold coins in India because they were getting delivered in 10 minutes. So it's moving in that direction. But do we have time for a few more questions? Oh, we're done? Okay, so, okay, one last question we could do, please.
Anybody from this side?
I think there's a question here next.
Hi, this is for Vishal. You spoke about how keeping customer at the center point is the mainstay for all the companies, right? Be it NRF, be it Seamless, be it any event I've been to, this is the main thing which is spoken about. But still there is a diabolical point wherein company sways away from doing that, and eventually not everyone is as successful as those who've been able to do this at the center for the longest time. So what do you think goes wrong at that particular point of time?
The way the companies look their systems, right? Previously, we had a single channel where we only had the stores and the customers interacting directly with the stores. Then we started opening up websites. So then it became, from a customer perspective, we kind of loosely throw around the word of omni-channel. When as soon as you open a website, we are omni-channel. That doesn't happen. It is still another channel which is directing to the website, giving a different experience to the customer. Till then, the company is looking different streams of businesses and not necessarily looking from a customer perspective. When you come to the omni-channel perspective, the customer is the center, right? And then you are leaving the decision to the customer and ensuring that the same experiences across the touch point that's happening. That's how we need to function, and that's the way that the business are going. The challenges is that the maturity of the business to understand which phase they are at and educate themselves on how we need to align ourselves to provide it. It could be multiple reasons of the challenge. You don't have the right technology in place. You don't have the capability of looking at the customer from a single view, because the customer who should have shopped at online, the retail staff doesn't not have any information. Like there was an example recently. What happened is, my partner, she shopped a product from a particular store. She wanted to exchange it. She walked into a different store. As soon as she walked into the store, gave her mobile number, they knew what she had purchased and what the product is, right? She wanted to return. It was an easy transaction happen. But there are many businesses today also. You buy online the product, you go to their same store, they don't know the customer. They don't know that the person has purchased that product. And then that becomes a broken experience for the customer. So that is because these online marketplaces or the stores are not talking to each other and not seeing customer as the center. They're looking at each of their businesses separately. Once you have a customer in the center, all these frictions reduces, and it's more easy said than done. You need to have the technology that can make all this happen, because we would have an CRM platform, we would have a ERP platform different, we have a different e-commerce platform which is not talking to each other. And that's where something like a technology which Harsh has mentioned, like Fynd, it comes and overlay on all of your tech stack, and they talk to each other. They become the middleman and take the data from different touch points and give us a composite information. So that's something that we need to consider.
Amazing. I think in summary, sorry, you have a question? One last one, promise he has done.
So my question is from the customer experience point of view. So how do you see or experience AI and the machine learning, transforming the customer experience and the operation efficiency in today's world? And what should be the stage of adopting this AI machine learning into a brand? At what stage in terms of data size? That's the question.
Maybe Harsh, you want to take that?
I think both for online and offline, there are different areas in which this has very well matured already. So for example, online recommendation engines have become quite standardized. In the sense, it's become hygiene for any company, any brand website to have a recommendation engine. And the delta that you can achieve is anywhere from 4% to 6% of sales that are coming from these recommendation engines. Offline, they have been done through the aspect of a sales associate who's helping you buy, as Kartik mentioned, right? Now there, if you're able to enable that sales agent to say, listen, because I know someone like this buys, this is the basket of that customer. I know that with that tent, you can also, you should recommend them a stove and a toilet and stuff like that. So I think recommendation engine has been used very well. On the apparel side, there's a lot of work that goes into sizing because the amount of returns that are sort of come in hits the bottom line significantly. There's a lot of work that's going into figuring out what is the right size for you when you're buying online. Different ways in which people have solved for it. Some of it is predominantly done through statistical models. We're saying if you're buying so-and-so size of that brand, then for this brand, this one will be the size for you. There's some companies which have started doing put your photo up. So for example, a lens cart where you upload the photo of your face and they'll tell you how a frame looks on you. So you're able to buy those, make the buying decisions better. So I think at least on the recommendation and helping you choose, there've been a lot of things that have already come in and fairly good amount of maturity for these technologies. What we've seen the last 1-2 years is coming in the beauty space, which is using augmented reality to see what lipstick works on you, what blush on works for you. You've seen the likes of a Sephora adopt that both online as well as offline in a lot of stores, at least in the US. And there's no doubt that it's going to proliferate across the world as well. Some of these areas we've seen a lot of work happening on the front end, on the consumer side of it. On the back end, being able to plan your store better, being able to figure out what item to stock, where in how much quantity, how to price, what sort of discounts and promotions to run. These have also been advanced to a large level. In a multi and an omni-channel world, the complexity of being able to have so many locations, being able to serve a particular order, and how do you dynamically allocate the order to a particular location to fulfill the inventory from. There's a lot of work that's happening here. So both on the front end as well as back end, there's a lot of work that's happening. And I think this is only going to increase.
Yeah. So on this piece, I mean, when we talk about the personalization and the customer experience and the considering the privacy norms we have, so how should we balance all this in when the privacy and all of this is becoming so strict nowadays?
So I think this, if I remember your question earlier was, what is the stage of the company where you need to start investing in these activities? I think I go back and say that in the first couple of years, you need to ensure that the moving pieces are all working fine. So the moving pieces are what? Customer comes online on your store, they see the product properly, they're able to understand what the product is. If they place an order, the payment goes through properly, they're able to get it delivered, and they're able to return it. I think this journey is probably sort of priority 1 for you, right? Spend 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months to get this right. Things like recommendation systems can be done from day 1, but they may not be as helpful because the amount of data that you have is not large enough for the recommendation engines to work well as well, right? So after you get to a level where a consumer is being able to shop from you at least twice or thrice a year, will you be able to make those models work better? So I think year 2, year 3, you will start looking at, okay, now here's my funnel that I'm seeing. At every point in the funnel, am I able to increase my throughput by about 10%, 12%? That's when you start looking at some of these aspects out here. So I would say spend the first 1.5 years getting the journey right, getting what you've ordered, you got delivery, the ease and the convenience, the mechanics of this process, right? And then start going into each and every part of the funnel and optimizing for it there.
Yeah, I think I'll encourage you to spend some time with Harsh after this one-on-one and enlighten, and I'm sure he'll enlighten you further. Thank you very much, distinguished panel, Kartik, Vishal, Harsh, Mahaveer. Thank you all very much for making it on a Friday evening. I think in summary, I can only say that it's extremely exciting times. There are a lot of brands who have multiple challenges across building these consumer journeys, but I think those brands are in the right hands. With folks who know what is to be done, how it has to be done. And there are implementation partners like Fynd and Codilar who are actually helping businesses get to those solutions as fast as possible. So exciting times, looking forward to this journey with all of you. Thank you for today. Have a good evening ahead.